Welcome to Retail Reset. It's a curated content and conversation virtual forum designed to help retailers on their road to recovery and beyond. I'm Debbie House, Executive Director of Content for Retail Touchpoints, and I'm here today with Todd Leff, who's the CEO of Hand and Stone Massage, a franchise with more than 450 storefronts. Today, Todd and I are going to discuss how the Hand and Stone brand has managed and navigated COVID-19, including some temporary layoffs and also a significant reopening plan. Welcome, Todd. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, let's just jump into our questions then. So to start off, why don't you fill us in a little bit about the brand and let us know how everybody's been doing during the crisis?
Great. So as you mentioned, we actually have 465 locations across 32 states and 2 provinces in Canada. The brand has been fast growing these past, really past 10 years. But the past 5 years, we've opened, more than 50 locations a year, each year. Tremendously successful. We've not actually closed a Hand and Stone location in more than 3 years. Tremendous comp store sales. And so, leading into, March 15th, we were on pace for another record-setting year. And tremendous growth. And of course, from our perspective, March 15th and beyond really changed the climate for this business.
How many employees do you actually have?
So when we think of employees, we look at the system-wide employee base. As you mentioned, we are a franchised organization. We have 2 corporate locations, but really, obviously, almost all locations are franchised. So across the franchised system, we had about 13,000 employees. That would break down. We're the largest system-wide, the second largest employer of massage therapists and estheticians in the United States. So we had about 7,000, almost 7,000 massage therapists, almost 3,000 estheticians, and then the balance would be sales associates and managers and sales staff.
Okay, all right, terrific. So with the locations temporarily closed, what have you been able to do to keep your franchisees and your other employees engaged during this time?
So that was one of our 3 core objectives when this, when we started closing locations from between the 15th of March and April 1st, we closed our final location. Our three core objectives were preserving franchisees' liquidity, protecting and keeping employees engaged, and then preparing to reopen. So on the employee side, it was really about, one, we had to furlough these employees because the locations were completely closed. So, helping them navigate through the process where they had health insurance, continuing the health insurance during this period of time. And then really setting out a path for re-education and training, and then determining what PPE was going to be necessary in order to make them feel safe when they came back to the workplace.
Okay. And so as you're starting to reopen, how many stores have you been able to reopen at this point?
So as of today, we have 120 locations out of the 465, reopened. We expect to open another 60 before June 1st. So we'll have approximately 180 stores reopened by June 1st.
Okay. So during this reopening process, what measures have you put in place to make sure both your employees and your customers are safe?
So that's really what we spent the last 6 weeks working on. I think we had to answer the existential question: can this business, a hands-on business, be done safely as you go forward in this new environment? And so we actually hired our own team of medical and infectious disease experts to evaluate the customer journey. And at every touch point, what could we do to make this, a safer, place to get this service? So it's things like disinfecting between each service, not on a time frame, but actually between each service, every hard surface. We did away with blankets in the room and only went to one-use linen. So every time somebody gets a massage, it's a new set of linens. We were fortunate that we already had sinks in every room, so we require hand washing of the service providers both before and after the service. And actually, in some states now, they're requiring that the client wash their hands before the service. And then really, making sure they had the correct PPE. So all of our service providers have to wear masks now. We require the client wear a mask. The estheticians have to wear a face shield plus a mask. And then going to a contact light transaction. We had been on our path to do that. This just accelerated that. So no more paper at the front counter. All the forms are emailed and then either DocuSigned or PDF back. All memberships are accepted via credit card a transaction without signature. So really creating this contact light transaction. And then I think finally the biggest change for customers is that we're encouraging them not to be in the lobby. We want them to wait in their cars, and we text them so that they can walk directly into their private treatment room and they're not sitting in a lobby waiting for their appointment. So
were a lot of customers waiting anxiously to come back? Have you had a good response?
Yeah, obviously we're all stressed out, right? And we have this pent up demand. And so one of the things we did is we said, during this time period, quite frankly, we were amazed at how our membership base stayed with us. So over 50% of the business is membership based. And we were able to continue, basically keeping memberships active for over 70% of the base of members, even though we were closed for 2 months. So what we said is when we first reopened, we will only allow members. We were restricting the first couple of weeks to members only. So the members just came, they can go in and book online. They had private access to the booking tool. And you could imagine that the demand is certainly there, for sure.
Yeah, I think we all could use a good massage right now, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
What advice do you have for other business leaders who are going through this crisis and some similar, challenges that you've been through?
Yeah, I think, for us, it was really determining what our core objectives were day one. You can get so distracted. There's so many moving pieces. Develop what your 3-4 core objectives are and then stick to it. Everything has to revolve around that. And then I'd say for us, and maybe for any business leader, is stop looking at today. We were always looking out 4 to 6 weeks, and I'm still looking out 4 to 6 weeks. It's not about the 120 open today or the 180. How do I get the 300th store open? What's it going to take to get the 400th location back open? So we were always planning out, 4 to 6 weeks from now, what are we going to have to do to achieve, our core objectives?
So what are some of the specific challenges that you've been helping your franchisees deal with as they had to close and then reopen?
Yeah, great question. And that goes to, I think I mentioned the first core objective, which was preserving franchisees' liquidity. So we were in a very fortunate position. We're, backed by private equity and also management. And so we had access to capital. And so basically right on as the first location started to close, we actually suspended advertising collections and our IT fee collections from franchisees and told them we would defer those for a period of 6 weeks till they could get back on their feet. We thought it would only be a 6-week, quite frankly, originally, but fortunately, that also during that time period, they were able to apply and get the PPP loan. So we had over 200 locations be able to get some funding through that. And then that was the second step to preserving them. We helped them with that process through our preferred lender base. And then finally, developing ways. We did not have a robust kind of online ordering from our customer base before. During this time, we launched an online ordering capability for skincare products for our franchisees, and then help them develop tools to keep their members engaged so that 70% of members would stay and allow, the membership fees to continue to be collected. So, launching new member benefits basically every week to help the franchisees.
So the franchisees have been in constant communication with their membership base during this time?
Yeah, so we also own an internal an advertising agency. So we developed all of the creative and marketing materials so they could continue to outreach to their members, explain to the members what we were doing, be transparent, but also, kind of what new benefits we were going to offer to members to keep them engaged. And now it's moved for those that reopen to the education process of, okay, well, how is the business different? What have you done to enhance safety? What are the new protocols?
Okay. So how are you handling the rehiring process as states are reopening, and are there different challenges that you're dealing with on a state-by-state basis?
Yeah. That was one of our biggest concerns, quite frankly, is a lot of our employees actually are making more money between unemployment and the additional federal funds. And, would they want to come back to work in this environment? Still concerns about safety, et cetera. And, we told our franchisees, temper your anxiousness to get reopened with some compassion for the employees' particular situation. Schools are closed, so we have a lot of single moms. That means they don't have daycare, right? And so, try to tie the employee re-engagement with the demand re-engagement. And so we have found that our franchisees have really taken to that. Over 80% of the employees have basically voluntarily, returned. Probably have about 20% that are, either don't want to return or want to wait out, several more weeks, either collecting unemployment or they're concerned about, safety issues.
And you, so you're encouraging your franchisees to be as patient as possible with those people who are still, unable to come back or just too maybe afraid at this point to come back.
Yeah, and I think it's a balancing of meeting. The franchisees put in a tough predicament, right? Because in order to qualify for the forgiveness under the PPP loan, they have to get back that employee base, right? On the other hand, we're not open, so there's not a lot for the employees to do. And then on the other side is the employee may not want to come back because they're making more concerned about safety. So, there's a lot of balancing there. And we've basically said, listen, kind of plot out your demand side of your business. You're not going to have 100% of the demand that you had before closing. Bring back those employees who really want to come back first. Let the others stay out and try to phase that in. I think the biggest impetus is the federal subsidy, which will end in July. At that point, I think almost all the employees would want to come back because they can earn more working than collecting unemployment. Right.
Yeah, I mean that's a topic that we've covered on the Retail Touchpoint site about the unemployment being more than you'd make going back to work, and it's been a real issue for a lot of different types of businesses. So sounds like you guys.
But I think overall employees want to come back to work, and they want to know, quite frankly, they want the business to survive so that they have a long-term place to work. We offer a great work environment, and I think once we get past the initial safety concerns and people have childcare arranged, we're going to see most of them come back.
So how do you think this crisis is going to impact in the long term a high touch industry like the massage and facial business?
I think a lot of these protocols will stay with us for the long term. And I think if massage therapists and estheticians think this is just something that's going to be the next 4 to 6 weeks, they need to really think differently. I think, the contact light transaction, we were moving to that anyway. It just pushed us to move faster, and that's with us. That is definitely with us for the long term. Nobody wants to go back to paper and, signing forms, et cetera. So I do think there'll be changes in how we service, in the attention to cleanliness and hygiene and safety, in the disinfecting processes. So those things I do think are with us for the long term. The only one maybe that will not be is that you may not have to have PPE, in the long term, masks, therapists, don't like wearing masks during it. It's necessary right now. But, most of the other stuff I think is here for, it is a true change in the way we're going to do business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I imagine that this has been quite a challenge as a leader of a business. And I've been wondering and have been having conversations with people about, are the leaders of your organization, equipped to lead during a crisis? What has the impact been on you as both a business leader and a human being during a crisis like this?
Yeah. Well, I would say I'm super fortunate to have a tremendous team, and because I was a little concerned. This is the first time that we've been tested, right? I invested in Hand and Stone when it was a startup 11 years ago, became the CEO, and quite frankly, we've been on a tremendous growth path, and we haven't faced this level of adversity. Now, I have managed larger companies, other companies through 9/11 and through the financial crisis. So I have some experience with that, but most of my management team did not, right? And so it is amazing to me how they have stepped up, and certain ones excel and others kind of do what they did, and some do step to the forefront, and I think will be acknowledged as we go forward. So I think they showed that they could manage through this crisis, even though having never been tested with this type of crisis. I think for me, I'm very fortunate that I have 4 children, but they are all grown and out of the house, because I can't imagine having had to do this with 4 kids home and having to try to homeschool and everything else. So I'm in a super fortunate position, and I think it's enabled me to really help focus our teams, where we need to be.
That's terrific. Yeah, I'm dealing with the same thing. My kids are grown and on their own, and I felt the same way. I can't imagine, if I was trying to homeschool, and I have a lot of teachers in my family, but still,
Yeah.
But it sounds like you've been a very calming influence on your team and have handled things really well through this crisis. So I really appreciate that you taking the time to share with us and our viewers. And I wish you all the best and a safe and healthy reopenings for the rest of your stores.
Thank you, and we hope to see you in a Hand and Stone pretty soon with
I hope so too.
gift cards.
I hope so too. All right. Thanks to everybody for joining us today, and be on the lookout for more Retail Reset content coming soon. Have a great day.